Welcome to Channel AMEC, your insight to the Australian visa system. Good day everyone, my name is Carl Yang, your online YouTube visa consultant. Are you interested about migrate to Australia? Why don't you consider to subscribe to my channel and turn on the bell on the side, so once we have all the updates and news, you'll be the first one getting all the insight. Now today's video, I would like to answer the question where I have regularly been asked, because they are parent buddy, they are obviously international students wanting to come to Australia, and of course their goal is to see potentially if there's an opportunity to actually migrate. Now Australia is a great country. Since the Labor government had took place back in May 2022, the migration door has actually been opened up for all kind of opportunity and skilled talents. Now question here is, now what is the trend and what sort of profession should I really foresee or study with in order to actually migrate? Now obviously my goal here is not to promote such and such degree where a lot of people just scram it up and trying to study without any interest. I'll always promote something obviously that you might want to and you have interest of it, because it's really painful that you go and study something that you really have no interest in just for sole purpose to get migrations. So anyway, that's not my intention in this video today, but more towards of seeing what the trend of a nation of Australia and how it used to be agricultural, tourism and mining giant, shall I say, in the world. But since the pandemic, since the COVID-19 viruses, a lot of things has changed. So has the world. So what is the trend that I can actually see and how a nation of Australia is moving towards, and seeing that trend, how would the occupation in demands to actually catch up with that trend? That is the thing that I wanted to talk about in this video, rather than just solely throwing in occupations for everybody to just pick without an interest, without any second thoughts. You really want to focus on what you really like and what you really interested of. Otherwise, can you imagine study something that you really have no interest and your career is doing something that you have no interest of? It's just destroying a life. So I don't want to do that. Rather than doing that, I wanted to tell you about what I see as a trend and what other occupations out there, and see if that fits with your interest. If not, that's fine. Just it's just another video of information. All right, let's remember our last video I talked about National Reconstruction Fund. I'd like to go back a little review on that part there. Why do I do that? Well, because that is the trend. That is the major trend where the government of Australia has come into a sense that during pandemic they noticed that industrialization of a nation is really important. They don't want to depend on overseas supply anymore, because if there is another pandemic coming into Australia, that's going to be a huge issue again. So they wanted to boost the industrialization in Australia and utilizing the new technology, so getting away of the old sense of thinking about industrialization, so the pollutions, so the smoke and things like that. Looking into the future of the technology, all these new futures, there's no more smoke, and it's all environmental friendly, and how Australia could actually capture that opportunity. So let's look at the trend there, as we have seen what the Prime Minister of Australia, Anthony Albanese, has actually put it on his website, and also this on government information as well. So if we look at these stuff, we're looking at some advanced materials, for example alumina, lithium. Now look, these are coming from the ground as mining stuff, but as like mine. But what the government of Australia is looking forward is to further processes, so that the process material, advanced material, can be sold for a better pricing rather than things like coal and the old way of how mining works. In the past, they wanted to have a further process so they can produce something like green aluminium, green steel, green copper, and things like that kind of stuff will actually have much more value. And the agriculture will they're looking into footwear manufacturing, so more of utilizing what the environment is given to Australia. So further processes require transportation, medical, renewable energies, defense capability. So if we're looking at defense, you may notice about AUKUS, where there's numbers of nuclear power submarines going to come into Australia, and more naval ships is going to be built. Now, who are those professions required to be in there? Now, looking into defense capability, there obviously will be aerospace and things like that, enabling capability and fintech, AI, and also we're looking into clean energy again. We're looking into like for example, solar farms, wind turbine, hydrogens, and medical manufacturing, putting into IC design that combined with advanced manufacturing with robotics, AI, things like this. Now, how would this actually? How is this trend and connects to occupation? I think in this video it's quite clear that it will be a demand of engineers, and that's why I'm trying to say this. Today is 2023. I imagine if we go into 2030, there will be a lot of engineers required to actually fit in those roles. So if you're really looking to train, and engineering is something that you're of the interest, perhaps that is the way to go. That is the way to go, because we're looking into those clean energy and things like that, and defense and all that. I'm gonna take you into the occupation list now to have a look all these occupations. So I believe that will be a demanding occupation. Now, a lot of people will say, well, why don't Australia just train their own engineers? Now, there's never gonna be enough. Can you imagine these large corporations in green energy, in clean energy, in solar, in AI, fintech, aero, naval architects, all these kind of stuff? They require Australia to actually train their own engineers. It's not gonna be enough. It's definitely not gonna be enough. If you're looking into industrialization of the new tech future of Australia, it's definitely required to have those skilled talents migrating into Australia rather than training themselves onshore. So let's have a look at those occupations that if you're really looking into those trends. And well, always refer to this web page. It's a very useful web page. It's the skill occupation list of the Home Affairs website. You may want to Google that. It's pretty easy to be done, and there is a beautiful search engine right here. So I've helped a lot of people. I just punch in engineers, and there are 3 pages of engineers. So first one, aeronautical engineer. Now, who will need these people? Well, obviously, if it's going to be aerospace, it's going to be more aviation coming in defense and things. These engineer is required. Okay, agricultural, we have seen the forestries, the traditional agri productions, primary productions. They may be more and more advanced food processing, agri-tech and things like that, and require these agricultural engineer to be in there as well. Then aircraft maintenance engineer, that's similar to the aviation. Now I'm gonna skip that down. Biomedical, yes, didn't we see medical and health is required? Obviously, over a pandemic, we in a post-pandemic era, biomedical health type of engineer is really required. I've been chatting with a gentleman who's a medical doctor, but he's also specializes in IC designs. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine the health sector merging with IC design, utilizing the knowledge to design IC that could actually help the health industry? It's gonna be huge. it is gonna be huge, especially when moving to nanotechnology nowadays. Things can be so small and can be so useful. Building engineer technicians, chemical engineer, very important as well, because we're looking into those mines. How can we mix different kind of chemicals, or I don't know. I'm not that kind of background person, but I know a lot of advanced materials require to be mix of different type of and ratio of different metals or different chemicals in order to achieve that advanced materials that like the chipset and things like that we're using nowadays, and also those material using for the electronic vehicle as well. So that is another kind of thing. Civil engineer, more buildings, constructions require that one. And we move down to computers, network system engineering. That is more of software, but I think for engineer part is more we're talking about hardware stuff. So electrical engineer is going to be major and very vital, and so was the electronic engineer. We're going into here we go. Electronic engineers is also one of the key component that required to go into semiconductor industry and things like that. And moving downwards, engineer managers, and let's go into page 2. There's a lot more engineer professions, engineering technologies, so utilizing the engineering. Probably some of the test tools and things like that. Environmental engineer is very vital as well, because if we're looking at the National Reconstruction Fund, if industrialization is coming into Australia, environmental engineer is very vital, because where the fabrication manufacturers is gonna sit, or the factory is gonna sit, or workshop gonna sit, we're gonna be make sure that the environment it is environmental friendly as well. Okay, geotechnical engineer, again, digging out a different kind of geotech stuff coming out of the ground. ICT is more software, so I'm gonna skip that. Industrial engineer, of course, we looking into smart factories. Have you heard about that? Smart factories, how they utilize big data, AI, robotics technology to within the factories, how that work and how that work in the industry. Material engineer is similar to chemical engineer. However, material is more about the mines and the rocks and stuff like that. And chemical is more about the what should I say, liquefied or gas type of stuff. But anyway, it's related. All these kind of stuff are nowadays being compounded to make advanced material. I've seen so many of those global talent independent talent people. They bring advanced material which it's you cannot really understand with a general knowledge how those materials were formed. So these all gonna be in their mechanical engineers as well. So I'm just basically giving you a demonstration of how I foresee starting from global talent independent visa. But at that point of time, that was back in 2019, not 2020. I had doubt, because being in Australia long enough to know that there is not much of industrialization in Australia. Why do they need these talent to come to Australia? Now, since the pass of the law on National Reconstruction Fund a couple of weeks ago, I was noticing all these category stuff, and also there's a lot more other news you may want to search in regard to advanced materials, added materials around Australia. Definitely, engineer as a profession will be a demanded occupation required in the future, and I can foresee that by training the locals won't be enough, because they got to train other professionals as well, teachers, medical people, accountants, and all the other type of professions or trades. So solely by engineer, if they want to industrialize the whole Australia in the future into a technology advanced Australia, engineer is required, and it needs a lot. So should that be your interest? Maybe, and that will be the trend of the future. Anyway, should you have more question or query, more than welcome to leave comment right down below. And I'll see you next video. Goodbye.